Hi, everyone, and thanks for joining me today. I'm Andy Hunt, and I work at the Hershey Company in Hershey, Pennsylvania. I'll be talking about how we're approaching augmented reality as a mechanism to create new capabilities, new experiences, and new connections for our business. At the Hershey Company, we take great pride in the trust and expectations that our customers and consumers place in us. This concept of bringing goodness to the world is central to everything we do and provides that North Star on which to navigate our path forward. Our 18,000 people work hard every day with a passion rooted in the legacy of Milton Hershey to make a difference, always stepping up to deliver the moments that people will love. We have a strong entrepreneurial spirit to take ownership and bring new, impactful ideas to the business. I work in one of those groups with a particular focus on keeping abreast of and identifying trends. My group is called Applied Digital Innovation, and I'll unpack the name just a bit to provide some explicit clarity around what our mission is. The applied descriptor means that our work is focused on the real-world application of a new technology to solve a problem or to create a capability. Whereas some research may be purely investigative and theoretical, we think much more practically about what an idea or concept directly means to the business. The use of digital is very intentional because in our space of consumer packaged goods, innovation usually means something directly product-related, like an ingredient substitute. So when we're working either internally or with others in our industry, the descriptor of digital helps to set context of our area of work. And lastly, the I word, innovation. This is a bit of a gray word insofar that the definition easily changes depending upon who you're talking to. For us, it implies the setting around which the technology has been developed and brought to a designed, scaled solution. A thing crosses the line into a true innovation when it is scaled and brought to the audience that finds value in it. For us in ADI, that last step in our development funnel is collaboration, where we work with a business partner to bring a technology to scale, and then we have truly delivered an innovation. Specific to augmented reality, there's no shortage of available information about what can be done with it. It's something we characterize as a little I innovation, meaning there are lots of practical ideas for use, but for whatever reason, we haven't implemented any at scale yet. While searching one day, I discovered by accident that according to the internet, there are about 139 million suggestions for things you can do with augmented reality. I think it would be a silly and provocative statement to suggest that duct tape with only about 89 million suggested uses is less useful than augmented reality, but based on sheer numbers and without any critical thinking, that would appear to be the case. I know my grandfather used to brag that he could fix anything with duct tape and baling wire and would absolutely take issue with this. And while I can't yet make a comparable statement about augmented reality, this massive corpus of suggested use cases can be overwhelming. What we're trying to do is help the right ideas for the right applications come to life. And this wide set of possible uses aligns well with the environment in which our group is free to operate. That is to say, in ADI, we have the mandate, which admittedly doubles as a luxury, to work across the company to look for ways that we can apply new technologies to address needs. What this means is that we get to work with engineers and supply chain to consider questions of first pass efficiency and decreased downtime. We get to work with our customer and retail teams to discuss issues around new packaging and visualizations of merchandising units. And we get to work with consumers to make new connections with our products and brands like never before. In this way, we get to think about the widest possible applications where to apply augmented reality that can make a difference for these various audiences and the goals they are trying to accomplish. But it's not all chocolate and peanut butter that this openness provides. But what this also means is that we have audiences with sometimes competing conditions of operation. Inside the company, we have a relatively smaller technical audience that can be trained to use AR to get specific functions of a job done. The use of AR may not be optional and could be a requirement and will therefore be used regardless of other factors. Our customer base is larger, but in working with them, it tends to be a guided or narrated experience where AR is used as an additional component to existing functions. As a technology, it demonstrates value by providing a lift over and above what is possible through existing communication methods. AR is an option, not a need, so effective AR must be easily value generative. And our consumer base is very massive with lots of options for meeting whatever need they are currently trying to solve for. If AR doesn't provide a compelling solution for where they are in their journey, they'll quite reasonably move on to something else. Worst case, that experience will remain residual and direct future behaviors. And while these three audiences operate in different conditions, all are interested in solutions against common desires. While those desires may be prioritized differently within the audiences, they're certainly shared at some level between them. And if these characteristics in audiences are similarly shared, then logically, we believe we have shared enablers to make that happen. If we learn about creating rich AR experiences for our consumers, shouldn't we then look and see what can be applied to make a richer work experience for our company teams? If we look to bring value-added functions to our internal teams, shouldn't we be considering the value we have to bring to customers? It's with this multidimensional approach that we want to broker solutions and ideas across our business partners. I'll share 3 areas where we have uncovered shared connections in some way. The first is conversion of existing 3D assets into optimized models that are highly performant in augmented reality. If you're working in AR, you're probably used to the idea of developing a pipeline or multiple pipelines to make the transition from desktop 3D modeling with lots of graphics processing power to rendering support on mobile devices. In representing our products in AR, they have to follow very specific brand guidelines and must accurately represent the products just like they do in other media formats and channels. But because of the delivery network can be unknown, we have to find a balance between the fidelity of the model accuracy and the speed of delivery that feels good to the consumer and performs well on a wide cross-section of devices, even when we're representing that product at a comically large 2-foot radius. The models we work with for consumer products tend to be very large and very highly detailed because they're going to be used for photorealistic renders for media, either static imagery or motion video. In working with these models, we picked up some skill in converting to the much lighter formats needed for augmented reality. Engineering models, of course, must retain fidelity of size, scale, and definition to ensure that decisions and work where those factors are inputs are made with the highest confidence. Even if you're visualizing a workstation at 1/20th scale, the details matter if you try to convey instructional materials so learning and retention are maximized. Optimizing a peanut butter cup model and a workstation model for AR is a very similar process. It feels intuitive now, but when we were getting started, it wasn't readily apparent. At a macro view, there are 3 steps of generation, composition, then optimization. We discovered lots of commonalities in the separate processes used by the distinct groups who were working with these assets. The names may have been different and the progression slightly nuanced, but there are far more similarities than difference. It was apparent to us that we needed to align, where possible, the engineering and creative teams. This enables us to use the same tools to compose scenes and then optimize. Depending on use cases, the optimization looks different, but that comes down to specific values on settings as opposed to the use of a completely different piece of software. With standardization on processes and software comes economies and a shared language where expertise can easily be socialized. Understanding the complexity in delivering high-performing consumer models has helped ensure we're delivering the fastest experiences for our internal audiences also. Even with the known network and devices, we've really tried to ensure no one is waiting on a line for content to load. And devices play a special part in the optimization. That last step of optimization is extremely dependent upon the output device on which the model will be viewed. One interesting element on developing our model conversion pipeline has been work done with the HoloLens specifically and the head-mounted AR form factor in general. From a practical matter, optimization takes on even more importance than it does on mobile devices of phones and tablets. Delivery for this usage has been a vehicle through which we can really hone our processing. If we can get something running on a comparably lower power device like an HMD, then our AR runs buttery smooth on more powerful phones and tablets. With this device category, the adage "seeing is believing" is never more apparent. With models that are as lifelike and performant as possible, we can create amazingly believable experiences if an intermediate phone or tablet is removed. Working with HMDs has provided additional benefits in that it's given us the chance to get out in front of consumers in this form factor. While there are a few HMDs available for public purchase, there really hasn't been one to take off or a compelling use case or a need. With a more clearly defined set of needs and usages in the manufacturing space, we can run a lot of tests and learns that we'll be able to apply to experiences in the consumer space once those devices are released. As you may have seen, Facebook and Ray-Ban have partnered to launch a pair of smart glasses, and Apple is widely rumored to be working in this space. It's not a matter of if, but when the right device will be launched to bring head-mounted AR to mass commercialization, and we plan on being ready when it does. Talking about consumers, but more generally users, is where I want to make my second point. For better or for worse, a lot of needs are funneled through mobile devices. In the consumer space, we must ask to be included in their digital lives. Consumers have a practically limitless set of options from which to choose when looking to accomplish a task. On a phone where the connection is so personal, there must be a trusted reason to offer an interaction. At work, you can quote unquote force a digital experience on someone as part and parcel of a job function. But as we know from experience, there are lots of tools that you use because you have to, and there are tools that you use because it's the best way to get the job done, and you definitely want your AR tool to fall into that latter category. AR is great at providing an immediate flash of excitement because of the wow factor, but there has to be more behind that. Any excitement or interest is quickly dashed if the experience takes too long to load or doesn't provide the information in a truly meaningful way. I've spent a lot of time talking with training coordinators, line leads, and ops managers to understand the work to be done and determine what, if any, part augmented reality really has to play to help. And while appreciative of the potential, I'll come back to the same basic point in that it needs to serve a function. These are the same conditions under which we must consider our consumer users. We have very few examples of AR activations in the consumer space that have caused any kind of positive buzz worth mentioning. The big fish, of course, is the Pokemon Go game, which came out about 5 years ago. It continues to be worth mentioning for what it did at the time to the consumer's consciousness of what's possible with AR, but also because it's still a powerhouse. Niantic, the maker, reported over $1 billion in revenue in 2020, the highest for any year since it was released, demonstrating the continued drawing power of the game and continued consciousness of AR in the public's mind. The other is the 19 Crimes wine brand. In case you haven't seen it, they used AR to interact with wine labels to tell stories about the different wine labels and personalities behind the brands. There are lots of other consumer AR examples, but none have received nearly the level of attention, due in large part due to missing a demonstrable need for the use of AR to solve a problem that the consumer has. In these noted examples, the game is a logical extension of existing IP, where AR provided a natural extension to the known gameplay. The other provides for repeatable storytelling across the different wine types to introduce a new wine brand to the American market as part of a marketing campaign. But by and large, the capital N need for the use of augmented reality is much less clearly defined in the consumer packaged goods space. Time is ever more valuable, and the expectations for how people will use it must be adjusted accordingly. Is someone going to download an app and use a quick AR experience just for a coupon? What's the payoff for an AR experience that would cause someone to spend extra time in store and divert focus from their shopping journey? The application universe of augmented reality marketing and advertising is littered with these little cute surface level activations. They present a glimmer of interest, most notably because of newness, but provide little to no long-term value to the consumer or the brand. It's frankly a wasteland of gimmicks that may get written up in the press that are never heard from again because they have no demonstrable effectiveness to solve a need. With a careful eye on what those needs are, we're taking a measured approach into applications of AR in the consumer space. On our direct-to-consumer site, we have a line of gift products called our World's Largest, where you can see, shop for, and buy an assortment of uniquely sized confection products. From a 5-pound bar of Hershey's milk chocolate to a 1-pound package of Reese's Cups to a package of extra long Twizzlers. We know from consumer research that product sizing at this unique edge case can raise questions. There's a lot of excitement about the idea of a 1-pound Hershey's milk chocolate, but is there also a practical matter of really understanding what the size of a product like that is? So from a functional standpoint, AR serves a very real need for consumers that also plays into the fun and distinctive nature of this product category. As a pilot a few months ago, we launched a view in AR function for these products, and we've seen a positive impact on its reception. With no promotional backing, we've seen a 3 times add to cart rate for visits using AR versus visits not using AR, and almost 9% click-through rate on the AR call to action, and an approximate 40% increase in time on site when using the AR function. With this type of data, we can then look to scale out to other products where sizing questions could be an issue for consumers. Demonstrating size and scale is a function almost uniquely perfect to augmented reality. Leveraging this inspiration is where we found our next use case through which to elevate our conversation points with customers. Like consumers, our retail sales teams and their key decision-making contacts with customers are all very pressed for time. In another pilot, we wanted to experiment with the use of AR to enable faster, more confident decision-making for these teams. This idea combined some of the pipeline process development from the work in supply chain mixed with inspiration from the world's largest pilot to show brand properties at scale and in location, built AR visualization models for retail teams. This was an especially unique activation because of usage in retail store at scale. Even in the most seemingly routine places like the grocery aisle, we get to practice a type of magical world building. This became apparent when we started seeing how people were excitedly interacting with the virtual models, even if they were just representations of common physical objects they might already be familiar with. Added to this was the collaborative nature of the experience itself. By and large, AR is experienced by one person through a device they hold or wear. With this use case, the expectation in practice was for a shared AR experience with collaboration and conversation happening around the visualizations. The interactions had to be easy to explain and pick up regardless of familiarity with the technology. It's become an opportunity not just to change the way decisions are made around these products, but reinforce who we are as a company and business partner. We can lean into the positioning I mentioned at the outset about our purpose to deliver moments of goodness, including in digital spaces. As a company known for snacking and confections, it's been particularly fun to introduce this new technology to our partners. Augmented reality is an amazing wonder generation tool that invites creativity and exploration. To borrow a phrase from literature, it's a magical realism putting fantastical elements into our grounded world. In the photos, we see this manifest during a recent meeting with our engineering leadership team, who are literally crawling all over the AR experiences we presented. And by the way, if you've been present when people use head-mounted AR, then you know it's almost as fun for people watching as the people experiencing AR. Nothing brings out the cameras like seeing someone else in a piece of headgear. It's so much more than just a tool to get work done. It's something to be experienced, and by extension can make work getting done more enjoyable, and dare I say it, possibly more fun. As we blend work and personal together like never before, I think bringing in a sense of fun becomes proportionately more important. If you've had the opportunity to share an AR experience with someone for the first time, it's that sense of amazement that we hope to pull through in repeated usages. While one day AR will become a commonplace tool we've grown used to, we hope to continue to build out experiences that lean into the wonderment to ensure use of the technology never feels common or complacent. And this leads me to the wrap-up for my presentation. As we've progressed through a variety of possibilities with augmented reality, we've internalized 3 directives that we share with our teammates working in this space. In summary, these directives are: share your processing pipelines if at all possible. If there are multiple groups in your organization that are interested in augmented reality, leverage that attention to consider what scale looks like regardless of organizational structures. Make sure your value is clearly defined for your users. This is obvious, but it bears repeating. With AR, you can get easily lost in the universe of possibilities when you'll make the most difference by allowing audiences to guide you. And push yourselves to really try and design your experiences. AR is a unique enabler in its capacity to integrate form and function, where the combination is exponentially greater than just the sum of its parts. I want to thank EWTS for inviting me to speak, and thank you all for sharing your time with me today. If you'd like to reach out to me directly, here's my email address, and feel free to write. I'd be happy to take any questions you have.